Welcome to QuickSpeak, the English podcast for learners. Today, we're thinking about, a question that everyone asks at some point. What makes a life a good life? What makes it meaningful?
Yeah, the big questions. Everyone wants meaning and purpose in their life. It's a journey we all go on, right? And here's the thing, it's not just about being happy or, being successful.
Right? It's more than that. When I've been looking into this, reading about it, it seems like it goes deeper. Like you have to feel like your life matters.
Exactly. It's like you're connected to something bigger than yourself. You feel like your life actually makes sense as part of a bigger picture.
That's a nice way to put it, a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like we're all a part of something huge.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that different cultures look at this search for meaning, in different ways. Take the Japanese idea of ikigai, for example.
Ikigai. I've heard of that. That's about finding what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for, right?
Yeah.
All those things together.
Right, but it's not only about finding a good job. It's about doing things every day that give you joy and purpose, even small things.
So it could be like a hobby or spending time with family or just going for a walk.
Exactly. And the cool thing about ikigai is that it can change as you change. You grow, your ikigai grows with you. It's not like a finish line you reach, it's more like an exploration.
I like that. So our purpose in life, it can keep developing and getting deeper as we get older.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. Have you heard of harmonious passion? It's an idea from a psychologist named Robert J. Vallerand.
Harmonious passion?
Yeah.
I don't think so. What's that about?
Okay, so imagine you're doing something you love, like really love, and you're just totally focused on it, and you forget about time. And then later, you feel great, not tired at all. That's harmonious passion.
Oh, so it's like something you're passionate about, but it gives you energy instead of draining you.
Right. It's like you're in control, you're choosing to do it because you enjoy it, and it fits with what you believe in.
And what's the opposite of that? Is there like a bad kind of passion?
Think of it this way, the bad kind. It's like it takes over your life. You don't control it, it controls you.
I see. So it can be too much and start affecting your life negatively.
Yeah, it can mess with your relationships, make you feel stressed. With harmonious passion, though, you find a balance. It makes your life better without taking over.
It sounds like finding that balance is really important for finding meaning in life.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's about doing the things you love in a way that's good for you so you can enjoy all parts of your life.
This reminds me of something else I was reading about, how important relationships are for meaning. Like our connections with other people, they're a big part of it, right?
Absolutely. We're social creatures, right?
Yeah.
We need to feel like we belong. And connecting with people, it's not just about having fun. It's a big part of our well-being, our sense of purpose.
That makes sense. When people care about you and accept you, it helps you feel good about yourself and your place in the world.
Exactly. And when you have people you can count on, well, they help you through tough times. They celebrate with you when things go well. They give you a new perspective when you need one.
They're like your cheerleaders, your support system. They help you through life.
And the great thing is, there are so many different types of connections. You have your close family and friends, maybe mentors, your community, even just small interactions with people.
So it's not about how many people you know, but how strong those connections are.
You got it. It's about finding the people who bring you joy and support and make you feel like you belong.
This makes me think about all the research on happiness and meaning.
Yeah.
Is there like actual science behind this that shows how important purpose is for us?
Oh, there's a ton of research.
Yeah.
Especially in positive psychology. They're studying all this stuff, all the benefits of having purpose.
So it's not just, a nice idea. There's real proof.
Oh, yeah. They've found that people who have a strong sense of purpose, they have less stress, less anxiety, and less depression.
So it's like a shield against the bad stuff in life.
You could say that. It's like having a compass that keeps you going in the right direction when things are hard.
I've even heard it can help you be healthier physically, too.
That's right. Studies show that people with a strong sense of purpose have a lower risk of heart disease, stroke, even some cancers.
Wow, so finding meaning isn't just good for your mind, but for your body, too.
Exactly. It affects your whole well-being. People with purpose are more satisfied with their lives, they bounce back from setbacks easier, and they just feel better overall.
It's like a chain reaction of good things.
Now, the big question is, if purpose is so good for you, how do you find it? Where do you even start?
That's a good question. It feels kind of overwhelming, like, how do I figure out my purpose in life?
Well, a good place to start is with your core values.
Core values. I think I've heard that before. Can you explain what that means again?
Think of them like your guiding principles, the things you believe in, the things that shape how you see the world and make decisions.
So they're like the compass that points you in the right direction.
Exactly. They represent what matters most to you, even when nobody's watching.
That makes sense. But how do you figure out what your core values are? It doesn't seem easy.
Well, it's definitely a journey, a process of self-discovery. But there are some things you can do to help. One way is to think about your best moments, the times you felt most alive and happy.
Oh, like really happy times, big accomplishments, or moments with people you love, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Once you've got some of those moments in mind, ask yourself, what was so good about them? What made them special? What values were you living out in those moments?
So it's like those happy moments, they can tell you what's really important to you.
It's like looking for clues in your life story to see what really stands out.
I like that. What else can you do to figure out those values?
Another way is to think about people you admire, your heroes, role models, maybe even people from history.
So like people you look up to, people who inspire you.
Right. Ask yourself, what do I admire about these people? What are they like that makes me respect them?
Like, we usually admire people who have the same values as us, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's that simple. And sometimes just paying attention to how you react to things can tell you a lot.
How I react. You mean my emotions, how I feel about things?
Exactly. Notice when something makes you feel really strong emotions, good or bad.
Oh, so like, if I see someone being treated unfairly and it makes me angry, maybe that means I really value fairness and justice.
Right. How you feel can show you what's really important to you.
That's so cool. It's like we're detectives trying to figure out our own values.
If you like visual stuff, you might like value card exercises.
Value card exercises, what are those?
You can find these cards online or make your own. Each card has a different value on it. You look through them and pick the ones that really speak to you, the ones you connect with.
That sounds fun. It's like a game to help you figure out your values.
Exactly. It can be a nice, easy way to start exploring your values.
Okay, so we've talked about thinking about your best moments, your heroes, your reactions, and using those cards. Anything else?
Sure. Another good one is to imagine your perfect future.
Oh, I like this one. So like imagine everything in my life is amazing a few years from now.
Exactly. Close your eyes and picture it. You've achieved all your goals, you're surrounded by people you love, you're living your best life.
Okay, I'm picturing it. It looks pretty good.
Now think, what's the most important part of that picture? What makes it so perfect?
That's a tough question. It makes you think about what really matters in the long run.
Usually the things that stand out in your perfect future, those are closely tied to your core values.
So your dreams can tell you what you value. Are there any other ways to find those values, those hidden ones?
Sometimes the simplest way is the best. Just ask yourself some questions, some deep questions. What do you believe in? What would you fight for? What kind of mark do you want to leave on the world?
Those are big questions. But I see how they can help you figure out what's really important.
And for a more practical approach, try looking at how you spend your money and your time.
What do you mean?
Look at your bank statements, your calendar. Where's your money going? What are you spending your time doing? That can tell you a lot about your priorities, what you really value.
Oh, interesting. Like, what you do shows what you really believe in, more than what you say.
Right. If you say health is important, but you never exercise and eat junk food, well, maybe it's not as important as you think.
That's true. Sometimes we need to see if our actions match our values.
Don't forget, once you've found a bunch of values you think are important, it helps to group them together and then choose the most important ones, the top ones.
So you're basically narrowing down your list until you know your top priorities.
Exactly. One last tip. When you think you've found your core values, test them. Ask yourself, would I still believe in this value, even if it made things harder for me?
That's a good question. A hard one.
It is. But your true core values, those are the ones you'll never give up, no matter what. They guide you through good times and bad.
This has been so helpful. I'm starting to see how important knowing your core values is for finding meaning in life. It's like the foundation for a good life.
You got it. And the best part is, it's a journey that never really ends. Your values can change and grow as you experience new things.
So it's not just one moment of figuring it out, it's an ongoing process.
Right. And that's a good thing. It means you're always learning, always growing, always getting closer to who you really are.
This makes me want to start exploring my own values more. But before we go too far, I'm wondering, what about the tough parts of this journey? The obstacles?
Yes, the roadblocks. There are always challenges when you're trying to find a meaningful life.
What are some of the most common ones? What should we watch out for?
One of the biggest ones for a lot of people is fear of the unknown.
That makes sense. It can be scary to leave your comfort zone and try new things.
It can, but it's also necessary if you want to grow and learn. The key is to think of challenges as opportunities, to believe that you can learn from them.
So instead of thinking of challenges as bad, think of them as chances to learn and get better.
Exactly. And you don't have to be perfect right away. Take small steps, build your confidence, and enjoy the process.
What other roadblocks are there?
Another common one is the pressure from society. What other people think you should do or be.
Ah, yes. Trying to please everyone else instead of yourself.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in that and forget about what you really want.
So how do you deal with that pressure?
It all comes down to knowing yourself. What do you value? What are you passionate about? What are your dreams?
Once you know what you want, it's easier to ignore what other people think.
Right. And don't be afraid to put your own desires first.
It's your life, after all.
It is. You have the right to live it the way you want, in a way that's meaningful to you. And, sometimes people get stuck because they don't take enough time to think about their lives.
So they don't stop and reflect on what they really want.
Exactly. It's so easy to get busy and forget to ask yourself the big questions.
Yeah. So how can we make sure we're taking enough time to reflect?
Make it a priority. Put it in your schedule like any other important appointment.
Schedule thinking time.
Right. Find what works for you. Maybe you like to write in a journal or meditate or talk things through with a friend or a mentor.
It's all about making time for yourself to think about those important things.
And here's one that might surprise you. Wanting everything to be perfect can also hold you back.
Oh, I know that one. I can get so caught up in trying to make everything perfect that I never get anything done.
It's a common trap. It's great to want to do your best, but if you're obsessed with perfection, it can stop you from taking action, from trying new things, from finding meaning in your life.
Because you're so scared of making a mistake or not getting it exactly right that you end up doing nothing.
That's it. So the key is to shift your focus from perfection to progress.
So instead of trying to be flawless, just try to keep getting better.
Exactly. It's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are how we learn.
It's about being kind to yourself and recognizing that you're trying your best and enjoying the journey instead of always focusing on the destination.
And speaking of being kind to yourself, another roadblock is negative self-talk.
Oh, I know all about that. That little voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough.
Exactly. And when you're always putting yourself down, it's hard to feel like you can live a meaningful life.
It's like you're your own worst enemy. So how do you quiet that voice?
The key is self-compassion. Be kind to yourself the same way you'd be kind to a friend. When you have those negative thoughts, challenge them. Try to change them to something more positive.
It's about remembering that everyone makes mistakes, everyone has flaws, and everyone deserves kindness, including you.
And if those negative thoughts keep coming back, don't be afraid to talk to a therapist or counselor.
They can give you some tools and strategies to deal with those negative thoughts. So we've talked about fear of the unknown, the pressure from society, not taking enough time to reflect, wanting everything to be perfect, and negative self-talk. Are there any other roadblocks we should be aware of?
One more that's worth mentioning is feeling disconnected or lonely.
Ah, yes. That feeling of being alone, even when you're surrounded by people. It's so common these days.
Exactly. And when you feel like you don't belong, it's hard to find meaning and purpose in your life.
It's like you need those connections to feel grounded, supported, to feel like you're part of something bigger.
Exactly. Remember, we're hardwired for connection. We need each other.
So how can we combat that feeling of isolation and build meaningful connections?
You have to be proactive. Put yourself out there and look for communities and relationships that match your values and interests.
So you can't just wait for connections to happen, you have to go out and make them.
Exactly. There are tons of ways to do this. You can volunteer for a cause you believe in, join a club or group that shares your hobbies, take a class, even just start conversations with people you meet in your everyday life.
It's about creating those opportunities for connection, whether big or small.
And when you connect with people, be present, be engaged, listen to them, ask questions, and share something about yourself too.
It's about building understanding and empathy.
You got it. And don't be afraid to let people see the real you, even the imperfect parts. That's how you build real connections.
So it's about taking a chance, letting people in, and showing them who you really are.
Now, building those meaningful connections takes time and effort. It's not always easy. Be patient. Don't give up if it takes time to find your people.
It's a journey, just like finding meaning itself.
Exactly. But here's a thought. What if, instead of just waiting for connections to happen, we actually went out and created them?
What do you mean?
Imagine stepping outside of your usual circles and connecting with people you wouldn't normally meet.
So being more intentional about connecting with people from different backgrounds and experiences.
Exactly. It could be through volunteering, joining a community group, or even just striking up a conversation with someone who looks like they could use a friendly face.
That's a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
It's about seeing potential for connection everywhere.
And you never know, those unexpected encounters could turn into some of the most meaningful relationships in your life. Let's talk more about that. It's funny how we often stick to what we know, who we know, what's comfortable.
It's true. We like to be around people who are like us, who understand us, who have similar experiences.
But think about all the amazing things you can learn when you connect with people who are different from you, who challenge how you think and help you see things in a new way.
Yeah, it's like adding all these bright new colors to that big picture of life we were talking about.
Exactly. When you step outside your comfort zone and connect with people who are different, you open yourself up to a whole world of new ideas and experiences.
I've definitely noticed that in my own life. Some of my closest friends are people who come from totally different backgrounds than me.
It's those unexpected friendships, those connections, that can teach you the most about yourself and about the world.
So how can we be more intentional about making those kinds of connections? How do we find those people?
Well, one way is to look for opportunities to be part of communities that are different from your own.
So like going to cultural events, exploring new places, maybe even traveling to different countries.
Exactly. It's about immersing yourself in experiences that show you different ways of life, different beliefs, different perspectives.
And it doesn't have to be something big or expensive.
You're right. You could just talk to someone at the store who speaks a different language or visit a different kind of religious service than you're used to.
It's about being curious, being open to learning new things.
And here's an interesting thought. What if, instead of thinking of our differences as things that separate us, we thought of them as things that connect us?
I love that. It's like turning those differences into bridges instead of walls.
Instead of focusing on what makes us different, what if we focused on the things we all share? Our humanity, our hopes, our desire to connect with others.
Changing how you look at things can make a big difference.
It can. It helps you see people who are different from you, not as strangers, but as people who are on the same journey as you, just taking a different path.
And speaking of journeys, I'm thinking about how this idea of creating connections ties back to those core values we were talking about.
That's a good point. Remember how your core values are like a compass? They guide your choices and your actions?
Yes, those values are like a guide to help you make the right decisions.
Right. When you connect with people who share your values, you're surrounding yourself with people who inspire you, support you, and help you be your best self.
It's like building a network of people who believe in the same things you do.
And when you connect with people who have different values, it can make you think about your own beliefs, see things from a different angle, and maybe even change your mind about what's really important.
So it's a learning experience both ways. You can learn from people who are different from you, and they can learn from you.
Exactly. It's all about seeing those differences as opportunities to learn and grow.
This is making me think about how we can actually build those strong, supportive relationships. We talked about open communication, but how do you make that happen? How do you create that kind of openness and honesty in your relationships?
It starts with creating a space where people feel safe to share their true thoughts and feelings without being judged.
So it's about setting the right mood for those deep conversations.
Right. It could be something simple like finding a quiet place to talk, putting your phones away, and making eye contact to show that you're really listening.
And it's also about paying attention to how you communicate.
Yes. Speak honestly and respectfully. Be aware of your tone and body language, and choose your words carefully.
And of course, listening is just as important as talking.
Absolutely. Being a good listener is crucial. Give the other person your full attention, don't interrupt, and repeat back what they've said to make sure you understand.
It's like saying, I hear you, I see you, and what you're saying matters to me.
Well said. And sometimes just asking open-ended questions like, what are you thinking about? Or, tell me more about that, can help people open up and share.
It's about inviting them to have a real conversation.
Now, what about when you have to talk about difficult things or when you disagree with someone? How do you keep those conversations respectful and open?
That's a tough one. Conflict can be really hard to deal with.
It can be, but you can still communicate openly even when you're disagreeing.
So how do you do that? Any tips?
One thing that helps is to try to understand the other person's point of view, even if you don't agree with it.
So try to see things from their perspective. Put yourself in their shoes.
Right. Try to understand what they're thinking and feeling, why they see things the way they do.
And even if you don't agree with them, you can still respect their feelings.
Exactly. It's not about changing their mind, it's about understanding each other.
And it can be helpful to talk about your own feelings and needs using I statements.
Yes. So instead of saying, you always do this, you can say, I feel hurt when this happens.
That way, you're taking responsibility for your own feelings instead of blaming the other person.
Exactly. Using I statements can keep things from turning into a fight.
It's about working together to find a solution, not fighting against each other.
Remember, open communication is something you have to work at all the time. It's not a one-time thing. It's a commitment to being honest and open with each other.
And it takes effort, and sometimes it can be uncomfortable.
It can, but it's worth it.
When you have that open communication, you can build deeper relationships, more trust, and feel more connected.
And those strong connections make your life more meaningful and fulfilling.
It's like a positive cycle. Open communication makes your relationships stronger, and those strong relationships make you feel like your life has more meaning.
And, building these strong relationships, it's not always easy.
You're right. Things happen in life, and relationships can be tough sometimes.
They can. Sometimes those challenges can feel like they're getting in the way of finding meaning and purpose in your life.
So how do you deal with those bumps in the road? How do you make your relationships stronger when things get tough?
Well, one of the most important things is forgiveness.
Forgiveness. That can be really hard, especially when someone has hurt you.
It can. But holding on to anger and resentment, it hurts you more than it hurts them.
It's like carrying around a big weight that drags you down and stops you from being happy.
Exactly. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what they did was okay or that you forget what happened. It just means letting go of that anger and resentment.
So it's more about setting yourself free from the past.
Yes. It's about choosing to let go of the hurt so you can move on and feel better.
And forgiveness takes time. It's not something that happens overnight.
It doesn't. You have to be patient with yourself and work through those tough emotions.
And sometimes talking to a therapist or counselor can help.
That's true. It's okay to ask for help when you need it.
So, besides forgiveness, are there other things that can help us through those rough patches in relationships and make them stronger?
Another good thing to do is focus on the good things about the relationship.
So like thinking about the things you like about the person, the good times you've had together, the reasons why you care about the relationship.
Exactly. Focus on the positive, not the negative.
It's like looking for the good stuff even when things are hard.
Sometimes you have to make a conscious effort to see the good.
It's like training your mind to find the good things, even when it's tough.
And here's something to think about. What if, instead of trying to change the other person, you focused on changing yourself?
That's interesting. So you mean taking responsibility for your own actions and reactions in the relationship?
Exactly. You can't control how other people act, but you can control how you act.
And sometimes, if you change how you act, it can change the whole relationship for the better.
It's about realizing that you have the power to make things better by changing yourself.
So instead of trying to fix the other person, you work on becoming a better partner yourself.
And when you do that, it often encourages the other person to do the same.
It's like you're both working together to make the relationship better.
Now, along with focusing on the positive and taking responsibility for yourself, it's also important to be clear about what you need and where your boundaries are.
So you mean communicating your expectations in a clear and respectful way.
Exactly. Be direct, but don't be aggressive.
And it's okay to have boundaries to protect yourself.
Right. Boundaries are important for every healthy relationship. They help you know what's okay and what's not okay, and they protect you, physically, emotionally, and mentally.
And setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's about taking care of yourself.
Exactly. It shows that you respect yourself. And it can actually make the relationship stronger because you both understand each other better.
Now, even when you're both trying your best, sometimes relationships need professional help.
You're right. Don't be afraid to ask for help from a therapist or counselor, especially when you're having a hard time figuring things out on your own.
They can help you learn how to communicate better, solve problems, and make your relationship stronger.
So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed in a relationship, getting help is a good idea.
It could be the key to having a better connection and finding more meaning in your life.
This has been such a great conversation. We've talked about so many different aspects of building those strong, supportive relationships, like being open with each other, forgiving each other, and setting boundaries.
It's been so eye-opening. And as we're wrapping up this part of our conversation, you had a question that really made me think.
Right. I was wondering, what if we stopped seeing challenges in relationships as roadblocks and started seeing them as opportunities to learn and grow?
That's a great way to look at it. So you mean those tough times, those conflicts, those moments of disconnect, they can actually make the relationship stronger.
Exactly. What if those moments were actually chances to learn from each other, to grow closer, and to build a stronger bond in a way you never expected?
It's like those challenges are actually making the connection even deeper.
And just like a blacksmith uses fire and a hammer to shape metal into something beautiful and strong, the challenges in your relationships can make them stronger and more beautiful too.
That's such a great way to think about it. It reminds us that even when things are hard, there's always the potential for something good to come out of it.
And those challenges can ultimately lead to a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in your life.
I love that. It gives me hope, even when things are tough. It reminds me that there's always a chance to learn and grow and make things better.
Absolutely. And that even when things end, there's still a chance to learn and grow and make things better.
Absolutely. And that even when things end, there's still a chance to learn and grow from the experience. Let's talk more about this idea of turning challenges into opportunities. So we've been talking about finding meaning and building strong relationships. And before the break, you were talking about how we can actually turn those challenges into relationships into opportunities to grow.
Right. Instead of seeing those tough times as the end, what if we saw them as a chance to make things even better?
That's a really positive way to look at it. So how do we actually do that? How do we turn those arguments and disagreements into something good?
Well, one way is to think of conflict as a form of communication.
Communication.
Yeah.
But when you're fighting, it feels like the opposite of communicating.
Yeah.
Like you've lost that connection.
I know, but a lot of times conflicts happen because there's something that needs to be said, something someone needs, or maybe there's just been a misunderstanding.
So it's like a sign that something needs to change, that you need to talk things out and make things clearer.
Exactly. If you can see those conflicts not as a bad thing, but as a chance to understand each other better, to figure out what each other needs, then you can actually make the relationship stronger.
That makes sense. It's like those fights can actually help you grow closer.
And if you go into those conversations with that mindset, you're more likely to find solutions that work for both of you.
But it's hard because things can get so emotional when you're arguing. How do you keep things from getting out of control, from hurting each other's feelings?
One of the best things you can do is really listen to each other.
Really listen. Like active listening, the kind we were talking about before.
Yes. It's about putting your own thoughts aside for a minute and really trying to understand what the other person is saying, even if you don't agree.
So trying to see things from their point of view, putting yourself in their shoes.
Exactly. You're trying to understand their thoughts and feelings, what's motivating them.
And when you feel like someone really understands you, it can calm things down and make you more open to talking things through.
You got it. Listening to each other can be a really powerful way to fix problems and make your relationship stronger.
Another thing I found helpful is to look for common ground.
Yes. That's so important. Instead of just seeing your differences, what if you looked for the things you agree on or the goals you both share?
It's like finding a way to connect, a way to move forward together.
Exactly. Even if you don't agree on everything, you can probably find some things you both want.
So like if two people are arguing about vacation plans, maybe they can both agree that they want to have a fun, relaxing time.
Right. Once they find that shared goal, they can start working together to find a solution that works for both of them.
This whole conversation has been so helpful. It's like we're learning how to take those tough moments in relationships and make them into something good.
And remember, even when things are really hard, when you feel disconnected, there's always hope.
Hope. But what about those times when it feels like things are really broken?
Yeah.
Like you can't fix it.
Even then, there's always a chance to repair things, to reconnect.
But that takes both people being willing to work on it, right?
It does. But even if only one person starts trying, if they reach out, that can be enough to start the healing process.
So it's like offering a peace offering, a way to open up the conversation and start fixing things.
Exactly. And even if the relationship doesn't go back to exactly how it was before, you can still find a way to move on peacefully.
That's good to know. It's like even when things end, you can still learn and grow.
Absolutely. And through all of this, remember to be kind to yourself.
Be kind to myself. I remember we talked about that with negative self-talk. How does that apply here?
When relationships are tough, it's easy to blame yourself, to feel like you've messed things up.
It's true, you can get caught up in those thoughts that tell you it's all your fault.
Right. But being kind to yourself means treating yourself with understanding, knowing that you're human, And everyone makes mistakes.
It's like forgiving yourself, accepting that you're not perfect, and being kind to yourself just like you'd be kind to a friend.
Exactly. And when you can do that, it helps you get through tough times and handle things better.
This has been such an amazing conversation. We've learned so much about the importance of connection, being kind to ourselves, and how even those tough times can make us stronger.
It's been my pleasure. I'm glad we could share these ideas with you.
Me too. I feel like I've learned so much that I can use in my own life and my relationships.
And remember, this journey of finding meaning and building strong connections, it's something you'll work on your whole life.
It's a journey with lots of ups and downs, twists and turns.
But it's a journey that's worth taking.
Because in the end, it's those connections, those relationships that make life really meaningful and happy.
And those connections can inspire you to live a life that feels purposeful and fulfilling.
Thanks for joining us today on QuickSpeak. We hope you found this conversation helpful and inspiring.
Don't forget to check the description for more resources on this topic. We've got links to articles, books, websites, all sorts of things that can help you on your journey.
If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe to QuickSpeak for more conversations about personal growth, language learning, and more.
We release new episodes every week, and we'd love for you to be a part of our community.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep connecting.